I want you to close your eyes and imagine with me. You're clutching the grip of a Glock 19, the magazine of your MP5 completely empty. Corpses litter the ground at your feet, and you're clutching a briefcase in the other hand, combination locked of course. In struts a squeaky clean woman wearing a pencil skirt, a blazer, and a blouse and a tie. The click of her heels resonating in the now quiet hallway that just bore witness to the nastiest firefight you've seen since the bombing at Arasaka Tower. She looks at you with a sneer and says,
I ask for discretion. This is not discretion.
She only wires you half the remaining Eurodollars for a finished job, most likely due to the lack of sensitivity, and she'll hear no explanation on the pile of corpses she now has to pay the city meat wagon to clean up. That's also likely coming from your cut. See, what you don't know, that operation you just butchered, both literally and figuratively, was a black book operation that breaks every law on corporate espionage. She meant it when she said no evidence, and you just put up a neon sign screaming both her and her corporation's names into the void of Night City. Her face is just level with the top rung of the corporate ladder, leaving just enough room for her to lick old Saburo Arasaka's Yohei Fukuda's shoes. She has to be careful because there's 50 other employees clamoring to get a taste of old man shoe leather, and they'll do whatever it takes to get their chance, even if it takes killing the person on the next rung up. One misstep and the people beneath her will have a corporate hit squad put an extra hole between her eyes, off the books of course. Yeah, she can find another job, but that involves starting from the bottom rung. That means less pay, less privilege, a demotion from shark to piranha, which means she has to eat another 20 sharks to get back to where she was when she was fired. And your little massacre? That might have just put her pretty little forehead right in the crosshairs. Usually, the exec doesn't work well with edge runners. That's why they manage a corporate backup squad with their role ability, teamwork. Now, teamwork tends to jump around quite a bit, so I've decided to give you the information two different ways. First, the way the book presents the information, and second, organized in list format by rank. Fortunately, describing all the classes and teams takes place at the end of the section, so I can present that after giving you a rundown of what you get per rank. A good amount of this will still be confusing as we haven't really gone over cyberware too much, so I'll interject and explain where necessary. As per usual, we start with a quote. Just like a real corporate executive, the exec builds a team whose members help them accomplish their goals, whether legal or not, morale permitting. The exec role ability is teamwork. This role is broke down into 4 sections: signing bonus, corporate housing, corporate health insurance, and team members. Signing bonus is easy. At rank 1 as a gift, the exec is given a suit comprised of a business wear jacket, top and bottoms, and footwear that identify them as a member of the business elite. The exec cannot resell these without raising suspicion. As a GM and a player, you can do a lot with this suit. As a player, you can take the suit and make it out of Kevlar or Armorjack and adopt it as part of your armor. You can make it breezy enough to fit a bulletproof vest under it, and so on. As a GM, you can make sure there's a corporate tracker sewn into the fabric to make sure the exec isn't up to no good. You can sew a bug into the fabric so all conversations are monitored while wearing it, and so on. There are ways the player can protect the exec, and the GM can put the exec at risk, but that's it. At rank 1, you get clothes. Next is corporate housing. At teamwork, rank 2, the exec is given access to one of their company's corporate con apps. As long as they remain a member of that corporation, they can stay there without paying any rent or any other fees. The exec must still buy their own lifestyle separately each month. If the exec leaves to join another corporation, they will extend them the same offer and even pay to move all their stuff to the new apartment. So when looking at your character sheet, if you're using the data pack variant, the space where rent would be listed would be 0. However, whatever other clothes and amenities like food will be at your cost, so long as you maintain a job as an exec at that company. Ranks 7 and 10 just upgrade your housing from a Conap to a Beaverville house at rank 7, or either a Beaverville McMansion or a luxury penthouse respectively. Corporate healthcare. At Teamwork rank 6, the exec is given Trauma Team Silver coverage paid for monthly by their corporation. If the exec leaves to join another corporation, they will extend to them the same offer. Rank 8 upgrades you to Trauma Team Executive. Now, what do you get with Trauma Team Silver coverage? We're going to look at pages 223 and 224 for this. And you get quite a lot, actually. On the one hand, I should have probably spoken more about Trauma Team during my Medtech video, but on the other hand, it does make sense to talk about it at length here, as we covered the Lawman previous and the comparison is made. Not to mention, we get to take a short look at the Medtech from the side of a corporation versus the Medtech from the side of an edge runner. Anyway, starting with coverage. Trauma Team Silver coverage versus Executive. Silver members are charged for treatments requiring surgery equal to the cost that they would be charged at the hospital. If the member doesn't want to pay for these extra treatments, the trauma team will do everything possible for them using the paramedic skill before dropping them off at the nearest hospital. Executive just removes the surgery cost. So, how does Trauma Team work? Let's flip back to page 224 and take a look. For starters, both plans are transferable on a one-to-one basis, meaning you can use your coverage to help one of your friends without coverage, but not for two friends simultaneously or if you've already called in your coverage for yourself. Registering your Trauma Team card on an agent with a linked biomonitor will allow your agent to call Trauma Team on your behalf during a firefight without you needing to take an action to do so when you have HP less than your body, or whenever you receive a critical injury that dismembers a body part. If you register your Trauma Team card to a friend's agent, their agent will be able to call for their injuries as above but on your plan. Otherwise, calling the Trauma Team is an action and can be done whenever you are injured. If you piss them off by calling them for extremely minor injuries, they might forget to respond to your next call. Upon calling the Trauma Team, you roll a d6. The result is how many rounds before the Trauma Team arrives. They then join at the top of the initiative queue. The Trauma Team are treated like the lawman's backup, meaning that in addition to SP, HP, and a move and body score, they have a combat number, which is used for both offense and defense. This number combines both stat and skills for them. You add a d10 roll to this value whenever attacking with their carried weapons or equipment, or defending. Again, as with backup, Trauma Team members cannot dodge bullets. A Trauma Team consists of 5 members, a doctor, a medical assistant, a pilot, and 2 Trauma Team security officers. They arrive from the air in an AV-4 equipped with a vehicle heavy weapon mount loaded with a Tsunami Arms Helix. The book then sends you to see page 347 for the stats on that. The AV-4 is also packed with medical tech, including 4 cryotanks and a state-of-the-art operating table. The Trauma Team prides themselves on arriving in their AV-4 as close to the action as possible and getting all patients safely into cryopump bags on the same turn that they arrive in combat if possible, after which they leave under covering fire just as soon as all policyholders are secured in the AV-4. There's also a chart on page 224 outlining the team that arrives on said AV-4, including equipment and skill sets for each part of the dispatch team. Now we can finally start talking about team building and what the teamwork skill gives you in terms of team members. After this, we'll organize all of this into a list, then I'll give you a rundown of how the information works, using the first team member as an example. Starting at rank 3, teamwork gives the exec a team member. Ranks 5 and 9 of teamwork give the exec an additional team member, capping out at a maximum of 3 total team members at rank 9. Team members are rolled from a special chart for each of their jobs, which we will cover at the end. The exec chooses which class of team members they want, but their role on the chart determines the stats of each team member HR hires for them. While constructed like players, they vary in several distinct ways. They do not improve their skills. They determine and heal their HP like player characters do. They are controlled by the GM, and their ability to follow an order depends on their loyalty and ability to make a loyalty check. They cannot wear armor other than light armorjack, company policy. Losing team members. If a team member is lost, HR will repossess their equipment and replace them during the next game session. This new hire has new stats, but their starting loyalty is reduced to 1, because they heard about what happened. In addition, this will cost the exec an additional €200 in hiring fees, aka bribes, to HR. So for starters, your team members don't actually level or gain improvement points. Once they're rolled, that's where they're at. Again, we see a point where the GM is included as a player, much like in the situation of the lawman and his backup, but more involved as the characters being played potentially have more dialogue. Finally, we see a penalty for getting your team members killed or quitting their job. Actions have consequences, of course. And with the mention of loyalty there, we should head into that section. Loyalty is a dynamic skill, something the player has to manage, and it's really simple to gain and lose loyalty when playing. Simply put, be nice to your employees and they'll move mountains for you. Conversely, neglect your employees and they just won't give a rat's ass about you and your goals. While team members work for the exec, they are not mindless drones. They do the tasks given to them by the exec based on their loyalty to their boss or the paycheck they signed for them. Loyalty is a shifting value. An exec must, during every game session, do things to promote loyalty and not lose it. Loyalty caps at a maximum of 10 in between game sessions, but during individual game session, loyalty has no limit. So when you're playing, your team members can have a loyalty level of 19 potentially, but after the session you reset to a level of 10. When a task is given to a team member by the exec, the GM must roll a 1d6 under the team member's current loyalty. If the save is failed, the team member may refuse or botch the assignment or otherwise turn on the exec. If loyalty drops to 0 or lower, the team member will actively attempt to betray the exec to their enemies. If, at the end of a session, a team member has less than 0 loyalty, they will complain to HR and either receive a transfer or quit upon having one refused, depending on HR's whims. Either way, they are gone. See losing team members just above. On page 154, there are 2 charts you can follow that give prime examples of to-dos and not to-dos on keeping your team members loyal. While technically yes, the next section covers building your characters, I'd like to take a quick moment to organize what you get per rank before moving on, so as to provide some structure to an otherwise disorganized class. Starting off, at rank 1, you get a business suit, which is suggested you keep. At rank 2, you get a company-paid apartment. At rank 3, you get your first team member. You get nothing at rank 4, however, at rank 5 you get your second team member. At rank 6 you get Trauma Team Silver coverage. At rank 7 you get a housing upgrade to a Beaverville house in the Executive Zone. At rank 8 you get an upgrade to Trauma Team Executive. At rank 9 you get your third and final team member. And finally at rank 10 you get another housing upgrade to either a Beaverville McMansion or a corporate zone luxury penthouse. I feel better about moving on now that everything's in list format. So now we're going to carry on with your team. You have several things to consider when rolling your character. Their job, their stats, their skills, their cyberware gear, and finally their starting loyalty. When rolling these characters, I suggest printing off Mook sheets on the Cyberpunk Red R. Talsorian Games website. I'll link that in the description below. So outside of Mook sheets, which are an entire separate thing themselves, what are the things that I just listed? So, we'll start with your job. Decide what your team member's job is. If you want to, you can also pick a cover job for them as well. You might not want other people to know you've got a covert ops specialist or a netrunner on the payroll. Stats. You roll 1d6 and read across the corresponding row, recording each stat. Don't forget to determine their HP, mortally wounded, and death save values. You do not need to lower their empathy due to humanity loss from cyberware. That's already been factored in. Skills, cyberware, and gear. Record your team members' skills, cyberware, and gear. These are standard packages provided to them by the company. And finally, you'll roll 1d6 and add 1 for your team members' starting loyalty. Looking specifically at the stats, HP's formula is body plus will divided by 2, which you'll round up to the next whole number. Then you'll multiply it by 5, then 10 is added to the result. So let's do a math example. Your body is 7, your will is 8. 7 plus 8 equals 15. Next, we'll divide by 2. 15 divided by 2 is 7.5, which we round to 8. Then we multiply it by 5, getting us 40. Then finally, we'll add 10, giving us 50. That is your total starting HP. In character creation, it's a little easier because you just find there's a chart and you find your body stat and your will stat, and then you just meet fingers in the middle. Now, I think this might be a discrepancy because he states specifically that the mortally wounded state is anything less than 0, so I'm assuming here that he meant seriously wounded, which is half your total HP. In the case of our example, half of 50 is 25. Your death save is the same as your body stat, which our example states is 7, which means you will have to roll less than a 7 to survive. Rolling a 10 kills your character automatically. Seeing as how cyberware humanity loss is automatically factored in, it's implied that you're supposed to use the information provided for each job, starting on page 155. There are 5. Corporate bodyguard, company covert operative, company driver, company netrunner, and the company technician. We're only going to cover the first of these classes, as the rest will mostly follow suit. The company bodyguard, which I'll shorten to CB for the duration, as well as the rest of its contemporaries, has a cover job and its true job. The company bodyguard's cover job can either be an escort or a personal trainer, while their true job is to protect the exec in dangerous situations. Bodyguard work. Beneath that is the chart you're supposed to use with a d6 to get starting stats. The next bit of information is covering the skills, cyberware, and gear given to the CB. Skills at +2, concentration, conversation, education, first aid, human perception, language, which is street slang, local expert, your home, persuasion, and finally stealth. Your skills at +4 are athletics, evasion, interrogation, perception, resist torture and drugs, and finally tactics. And the only 2 skills that you have at +6 are handgun and brawling. Your cyberware includes enhanced antibodies, subdermal armor at an SP of 11, a cyber audio suite, an internal agent, and a homing tracer. Your gear, and the first piece of gear is a little redundant to me, but you get an agent, light armor jack with an SP of 11, a very heavy pistol, a basic very heavy pistol ammo at 50 rounds. As I said, the other 4 classes, save for the Netrunner, will follow this kind of convention, with the Netrunner having their own black ice and a cyber deck in their gear. For an in-depth explanation on this, I'd suggest going back and looking at my Netrunner video, which the link will be as an end card to this video. I know I cut this short, but anymore, especially when talking about the exec's team members, and it gets pretty redundant. So I'd like, once again, like I said, to cut this off here. If you found this video helpful, please consider giving me a like and your subscription. It definitely helps me out. Hello, kitty. Also, like I mentioned in the Reddit video, I've been working on my first lore video, so we'll have that to look forward to as well, on top of finally looking at the Nomad class and wrapping this particular series up. I love you all, and I will see you all later on.